New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Well, hello. Hi, Jocelyn. I see you first. It's good to have you here. You know what today is, don't you? Of course you do. It's our live show. It's Tuesday, and we show up live. And today, we're going to be talking about some things that, if you're not going through it now, you may go through it later. If you're not going to go through it later, maybe you've been through it in the past. And today, what we're going to be talking about is going through the hard stuff and how do we navigate that anyway, right? I want to talk about this because it is a practical thing that we need to look at. And it's something that we need to deal with it in a compassionate way, both with ourselves and those involved. And it's something that I don't think we talk about enough. I just don't. So that's why I want to go there. I'm willing to go there. And I've got a few studies that were very enlightening and I think are going to help as well. So here we all are. How about that? All right. First things first, though, we have our nutrition classes are still going strong. We have 7 of them, and next week is week 6. So we have 2 more left. That doesn't mean you can't get the whole series. The whole series is recorded and will be there forever and ever. Amen. You'll be able to go get them and look at them and see the ones that you want to see over and over again. Whatever. Hello, Carol from Asheville. Carol's here. Anyway, so I love these nutrition classes. They're just really, it's fun because we're getting into the nitty gritty about nutrition because it's not just about what's on the end of your fork. There's a whole lot that goes along with it and we're getting into it. And next week's going to be a doozy. It's about menopause and nutrition and such, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be fun. So if you have not done these classes or you're interested in seeing, oh, well, what's this about? You can get the series or you can get just one if you want to and say, that one really speaks to me. Go to savingdinner.com/nutrition. All the information is there. And I strongly suggest that you take a look. That's what I say. All right, so there's that. Also, Recreate Your Life is coming up. The book that we're going to be doing is called the first book that we're doing is called Chasing Cupcakes. And this book is a hard hitter. Let me just tell you, if you have suffered in a way with some kind of an eating disorder or binge eating or anything like that, this book will knock you upside the head. That's why I chose this book. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and this book is a real humdinger. This woman writes so clearly and so well. So I really like it. Savingdinner.com/recreate. You can see what the rest of the books are about because August, September, October, those are the dates that we're going to be going, doing this whole thing with. So you'll like it. The other thing that I want to mention too is, and I don't know why I have neglected to do this, we're working with Native Path now. I love Native Path. It is, to me, I will say it is the premier smart nutrition company. Supplements are just so on point, so well done. And I will tell you that everything that they sent me 2 big product boxes with everything in it. And I tested them for a month before I even opened my mouth about it. And I have been so impressed. I did a deep dive on every single one of the ingredients. I found out how they procured their ingredients, everything. And to say that I'm impressed is an understatement. It is a phenomenal company, and they've got a screaming deal right now on their hydration products. Now, I say hydration products because the name of their product is Native Hydrate. It comes in a tub, or it comes in these. I should have brought some down, but it comes in these little sachets, they call them, where you just tear the top off and put it in your drink. Now, here's why I like them. First of all, hello, Doris. First of all, if you're in a hot climate, you're going to be sweating. And if you're sweating at all, and I'm not talking about overexerting, I'm not talking about, laying it out and, in a workout or anything. But when we sweat, we lose our minerals. And when we lose our minerals and we're just guzzling down water, guess what we're doing? We're diluting what minerals we do have left. This is why we sometimes get dizzy. Sometimes we're a little brain foggy, whatever. It's really important that we hydrate with the minerals. That's why we want electrolytes in there. The electrolytes actually spark the our bodies to work. Our hearts need this. Every single cell needs it. This is crucial. Savingdinner.com/hydrate for this deal. It is worth every single dime, and you need to have this in your sports bag. You need to have it in your purse. You need to have this at least one bottle a day. I do too, but I'm, out being crazy. Did I just see my Tanya? Hello, Tanya. She's here all the way from Canada. Anyway, so that's that deal. I wanted to make sure that you saw savingdinner.com/hydrate. We love this. I'm drinking it now. Delicious. And by the way, just a little bit of stevia, great ingredients, no artificial anythings. You know me. I mean, if it did have anything like that in there, you wouldn't be hearing from me about it. Okay. Right. Here we are. All right. So there you go. Those are the things that we have going on right now. And those are the things I want you to be paying attention to and getting on it, because these are the things that are game changers. Now, I want to talk to you. I forgot about this. Yeah, we have, here's the quote of the week. You might be poor, your shoes might be broken, but your mind is a palace. And the reason I love this quote so much is because it's your mind that is really going to determine everything. Your mind is the structure that puts the structure into your life. I have been saying lately, and it's been happening. Everything is always working out for me. Everything always works out for me. Even when, somebody will say, well, the market conditions aren't well, it doesn't matter. Everything's always working out for me. Somebody will say well, it's really hard because X, Y, and Z. Oh, really? That doesn't matter, because everything's always working out for me. Of course, everything's always working out for me. Try it. That's how your mind becomes a palace. That's how, you could be taping up your shoes with duct tape for all I care, but create in your head a place for you to live and to aspire to. Visualize what it is that you want. Start there. I promise you, it's a game changer. All right, so let's talk about this. So today I wanted to talk about getting through the hard stuff. Because if you haven't had the opportunity, I don't know what else to say. If you haven't had this situation in your life where you've had to get through some hard stuff, then it's coming, because this is how life is, or you have already lived through it. But there's practical things that we can do, and there are things that we can be about when life might be a little bit on the sketchy side, or things might just seem just a little precarious. You know what I'm talking about, because sometimes life gets hard and it just keeps on hitting. Sometimes there's a diagnosis for you or a loved one. Sometimes there is a death in the family to someone that very close, and the pain is just overwhelming. Sometimes there's a betrayal, and that betrayal, it's just, again, that emotional upheaval of all of it. It unravels everything that you previously thought was solid. And it's disconcerting. It throws you off center so quickly. And what we basically try to do this whole time when we're in this place is find that center again and find that place where we can again put our feet down and feel like we're on solid ground. But when we're in this place and when things just, give us that whack, that two by four upside the head of this emotional upheaval, anything feels like it's a big deal, like making dinner or, tidying up the bathroom or, returning a text message even can seem like so much. And that's because when something like this happens, everything is turned upside down and you're in actual survival mode and you're just trying to get through and you don't know what to do and you don't know what's next and you don't know what to feel or what to do or what to say or just even how to take a breath sometimes. And survival mode isn't pretty. It's survival mode. It's getting by. It's getting up when you can and getting out of bed just, one foot in front of the other, and it's a slog. It's primal, it's raw, but it's real. And this is what it feels like when you're in this place of just absolutely having to think differently, look at things differently. And sometimes, and tell me if you can relate to this, you'll wake up in the morning and you'll go, "What's different? Oh, it's that. It's that." And all of a sudden, the heaviness comes back and the weight on your chest and the breathing becomes almost difficult because the hard stuff is really hard and it throws us all for a loop. So I'm going to not say that we can journal our way out of this. I'm not going to say go get your gratitude journal and look at the things that you can be thankful for, but we are going to talk a little bit about gratitude later. And I promise you, because that's always a part of the equation. Okay. Just hold a little space for that one. Um, but we need to know, what can I actually do to really and truly move through this fire that's in my life. Okay? So let's talk about it. Number one thing that we can do is to name it without judging it. Okay? There's a psychologist named Dan Siegel, and he said you need to name it to tame it. I love that because when you can label what it is that you're feeling, you can say, I feel this rage, I feel grief, I feel anger, overwhelm, I feel numbness, whatever it is, it activates this part of your head. Once again, we're talking about the brain. It activates the prefrontal cortex. That's your intelligence center for your brain. And it helps you to regain a sense of control because now you know what it is that you're feeling. Too often, we have these blanket emotions. We don't get granular enough with what it is that we're feeling. It's not angry, just necessarily. Anger could be in with numbness and grief and rage and all the rest of it. It could be tinged with that, but we need to understand what that is. And when we are asking ourselves questions, our brain doesn't rest until we start to find the answers. And that's part of the reticular activating system saying, okay, so let's look for what the answer to this is. This is how I'm feeling. And I will tell you, after going through some stuff that I went through many, many years ago, like 15 years ago or whatever, when I was going through this whole process, being able to put a label to how I was feeling helped me so much because it brought that emotion into a cup, so to speak. I had a place to put it and a place to understand it, and then a place to look at it and talk about it and finally be able to heal from it. But if we don't know what it is, we can't, we can't tame that big ugly monster. Okay? So I love this one, name it without judging it. So and the science behind it, by the way, um, shows that brain scan shows labeling emotions lowers the activity of the amygdala. And we all know what the amygdala does. The amygdala is screaming at you in fear and danger, and it's your basically your alarm system. And it increases that activity here in front of your brain where all the big stuff happens. And that's also, this is the part that's also in charge of decision making and self regulation. And when we can make decisions and when we can self regulate, it puts us back in the driver's seat and it takes us into a place of feeling like we do have 2 feet on the ground. We're hurting and all this other stuff is going on, but we're not discombobulated anymore. And that is just super helpful. So, a couple of things that you can do with this information. Number one is to pause and maybe write it down in your journal. I think that's always really helpful because you can go back to it. But you can also do this in front of the mirror, which I think, again, is helpful because then you are sort of confronting yourself and being with yourself. And say this: I feel anxious and exhausted. I'm scared. I'm angry that this is happening, you know? Because that's honest. That's true. When you name it, you let go of holding it, okay? Um, and instead of it holding you, you hold it and you have the control over it. Does that make sense? I know I said that in a kind of a funny way, but to me that's just everything because you're not being manipulated anymore by it. You now are holding it in your little cup, so to speak. And number two that you can do is to create micro moments of sanity. This is, you know, when everything feels out of control, then find a thing that you control, that you can control, that is small. So, this is the science behind that. Routines signal safety to your nervous system. When we're going through something big, oftentimes we're in this whole nervous system overload and it's fight or flight the whole way and we just feel absolutely numb and kind of crazy. But a small ritual like maybe sitting down and having a cup of tea in the middle of the afternoon, for example, and just that idea of even pulling out, your mother's teapot and just taking that moment is very centering, and it gives you that feeling of stability. There's a memory there from grandma's teapot. There is something about that that just gives that calm, and that lowers your cortisol levels, as you know, and it calms your body's fight or flight. Tapping does the same thing, and deep breathing, humming even helps. Exercise helps, all these different things, but it creates a moment of stability. And it's a small thing, but it's a big thing because we need these small things when we're going through something big. So you might, if this is something that's kind of ongoing, like maybe you are, dealing with, I have a friend who's dealing with her mother's um, post stroke and all these things. And now she's fallen. She broke her thumb and now she fell again and she broke her hip, had to have surgery. She's going into rehab. You know the deal. If you've dealt with an older parent, it's a lot and it's overwhelming. And having something to stabilize and give you that anchor that you need in order to get through all the big things that you're going to have to face later on is huge. These are things that we need to do for ourselves, and it doesn't have to take, hours at a time. It's not like these big humongous self-care rituals. It's little things that we have taken the time to say, I need this for myself for right now. After this cup of tea, I'm going to tidy up the kitchen, and then I'm going to go off and do X, Y, and Z that I need to do. So I think, super important, and it's a declaration to yourself that you matter too, and not to do what a lot of us do, which is to forget all about ourselves and to completely expend ourselves for everyone else, to our detriment. What they found too, by the way, in studies is that people who do that, especially women, who do that and just wipe themselves out, they end up getting sick once everybody's taken care of. They end up getting some mystery illness or get wiped out by, the flu or whatever. So be aware that your body is always signaling and has chemical reactions to everything that's going on. And not taking care of yourself as you're taking care of the world is going to put you in a place of being next on the list for something maybe big happening to you. That's why this is so important. And number 3, this is a hard one, but it's an important one, and that is to let others in even when it's messy. And I will say, be careful who you let in too. And remember that it's not about you letting people in so you could be mishospitable and have people over and have to tidy up for them and have to entertain them. That's not what this is about. This is about you letting people in who can see the real raw you, people who love you and have a vested interest in your friendship or your relationship with you. And they're not going to care that you haven't done the dishes, or that, yeah, you're having a breakdown and that your, mascara is going down your face like Tammy Faye or whatever. That's why it's important that those people that you do let in know that you're struggling and they're okay with the struggle, and they can sit with the struggle and they can sit with you and walk alongside, you know? We don't need the additional stress of having to entertain people and let them think that everything's just great when it isn't. That's a big fat lie, and we do not need to perpetuate that. What we need to do is get the support that we need, and the science supports that. It says social support not only improves your mental health, it literally strengthens your immune system and lowers your risk of dying from all causes. That's important. That's huge. We are wired for connection, not isolation. We need that connection and we need those other people in our lives. And that's why I said selectively, because we don't need just anyone. We don't need somebody who we know is going to be hypercritical. We need someone who's going to look at us with the tears in our eyes, with our hair a mess, and say, I love you. I'm here. What can I do? How can I help? Can I do a load of laundry for you? Can I go take your mother to rehab? Can I do something? Those are the people that you want in your life. Let them, because when you let them, they're loving on you. And when you get that kind of love and that kind of connection, you heal inside too. So, how do you do this, by the way? Because oftentimes we just suffer by ourselves. And this is where courage comes in. And we text that friend and say, I'm really going through it right now. I'm really having a hard time. And you watch what they do. You watch how they come out of the woodwork for you, and you watch how they're on the next plane, they're getting in their car, and they're coming over, because that is the relationship that you've built, and these are the people that you need in your life. And this is how we get through those hard times. We don't do it alone. We can't, you know? Doing it alone is just basically, sucking it up and what have you. And nobody's made of that kind of steel, not a soul. We need those fleshy people who understand our fleshy souls and how we're just really falling apart. And it makes all the difference in the world. But there's another thing too, and that's number 4, and that's stop negotiating with reality. Okay, so there's a moment we all hit in grief or trauma, for example, or heartbreak, where we keep thinking, you know what, this isn't fair. That's not how it's supposed to be. And we could keep playing that and playing that and playing that over and over our heads. And you know what? No one's going to argue with you. You're absolutely right. This shouldn't have happened. But here we are. And what's happening is real. And I'm going to tell you my perspective, my point of view. The anger that I've had toward my son in law is unbelievable. Do you know how many times I've said that? Do you know how many times I said I want to just scratch his eyes out? Or, you know, I hope he gets ingrown toenails and they're the most painful thing he's ever had. I mean, just unbelievable. I haven't felt this kind of stuff before. But the reality is this is happening. I don't I don't have the omnipotence to change it. And for me to just say, this isn't fair, this is not how it's supposed to be, is a lot of energy expended on something that's already happened. And so we need to pull that energy back and put it toward something instead. It's a mindset shift, but it's an important mindset shift because we can get stuck in that. And that is a loop that will play and play and play and play and bring you down. Promise, hand to God. And I know this because I've done it. So the mindset is Tara Brach said, she calls it radical acceptance. We've talked about her before, and I love that her book, Radical Acceptance, is incredible. But it's facing the moment as it is without the resistance, without the blame, and without the bargaining. You know, we want to do that. That happens a lot with, when somebody is, especially somebody's dying, and just like, well, what if we did? It doesn't always work that way. It doesn't. Sometimes there is a miracle and we're so blessed and lucky. Most of the time that doesn't happen though. It doesn't. It's not giving up, it's giving into what is so that you can move forward. There's a forward from here, you know? There was this life here, and then there's this life over here. What's on the other side of all of this chaos and all of this darkness and all of this hard stuff? There's another side to it. It's not always going to be over here. It's not always going to be like this. There is another side to it. And radical acceptance is one of the ways in which we say, okay, so this is what it is. This is what it is. So what's on the other side for me now? What is that going to be looking like? So you can say to yourself, this is what's happening. I don't like it, but here it is. Um, and I can be with it. And I can be with it and not fall apart. And I can be with it and still get on with my life. And I can be with it and even get better. And maybe you're not in that place of saying that yet, but over time, it does soften the suffering. Because remember, the thing that one of the quotes that I love, and I can't even, I'll have to just paraphrase it, is, you know, life is hard. Suffering is optional. It is. And suffering is a loop. And it doesn't mean that you don't suffer at all. It just means that staying in a state of suffering is a choice. Because there's a point where, especially with radical acceptance, we can step out of the suffering loop and say, you know what? It is what it is because it is. There's just not a whole lot that you can do from it. And then number 5, as time goes on, you can let meaning rise from the rubble. You know, there's a Bible verse that you can get beauty from ashes. Beauty from ashes. How is that so? Well, it takes time. It takes time because there's things that need to be processed. And again, we're back to the place of our prefrontal cortex. If we can get out of our amygdalas and get to this place of intelligence and reasoning and more complex thinking, this is where our emotional intelligence also lives, by the way, not just our intelligence. This is the place. But not if we're stuck in our amygdalas. Our amygdalas are going to hold us back like nobody's business. That's what they do. It's risky, it's dangerous, it's that's the alarm going off, you know? So we need to be sometime at some place after all these things that have gone on, get to the place where we're saying, well, what do I need to learn from this? And I don't know if you've been with me for a while, I've talked about the experience file. And this is where we put those painful things into the experience file because they're teachers. They show us something. They give us a lesson. We do not have to repeat it over and over and over again. We can take the lesson. We do not have to be the poster children, if you will, for pain and suffering and constant awfulness. We don't. The science behind this is really interesting because here's what it says. The research on post-traumatic growth shows that while trauma can break us, it can also rebuild us stronger. Stronger. Oftentimes with a broken bone that it's grown when it gets reset and what have you, it's stronger than it ever was because of all the extra bone and everything that goes in there. It's true. Broken doesn't mean broken forever. It can mean broken, healed, and now stronger. That's what it can mean. More purposeful, more connected with what matters, more compassionate, more tender, more experienced, more able to help somebody else who's coming along, maybe in your life, who needs you as we go on. Because what I've learned is this, that when you go through tough stuff and you go through something really traumatic and awful, and you somehow get through it and you're using tools like this, you come out of it on the other side, not just with an experience, but also with wisdom, also with clarity, also with empathy and a compassionate heart and a hot desire in your heart to help somebody else who's been through it. And I will tell you, you will get your opportunity to help somebody else out. You will, because that's just how life works. And when you're open to it and when you love like that, then that's gonna be your saving grace too. Because being able to help someone else who's in now a tough time is the full circle of that loop, and it closes it, and it helps your own healing become complete. And the last thing I want to mention about this whole thing is that we need to remember that this is temporary. you know, a hard time is temporary, even when it feels like it's endless. It always ends. It's always, it just does. And it might not be fast, it might not be fair, but what you might be feeling right now is not forever. Emotions are waves. They come, they peak, they go. They do. And sometimes it just seems like forever, like a tsunami that just won't leave the shore. So, you know, you have done hard things. If you've survived this long and are in this world and are here now, you have done hard things. We all have. And you can do this one too, simply by making the decision that you can. And one day, someone else will be reaching for you, and you will be that hand in the darkness that grabs it and says, "I'm here for you. How can I help? What can I do?" That's the kind of women I want to be around. And that's the kind of women you are. This is how we live in full bloom, even during the hard stuff. All right? That's all I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. I hope somebody who needed to hear this heard it. And if you missed any of our announcements, you can find that at savingdinner.com/announcements. That's where everything lives, all the things that we have going on this week. And that's it. I guess I will see you next Tuesday. Don't forget about checking out the Native Hydrate. That stuff is the bomb. It's right here, savingdinner.com/hydrate. Love you all. Peace be with you. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.